When we think of art, a lot of us picture paintings hanging in a super quiet museum. But what if art wasn't just an object? What if it was a living, breathing story? The story of a nation's soul, its history, its whole identity, all captured in clay, on stone, and across canvases. Today, we are diving deep into the incredible journey of Philippine art.
So that really gets to the heart of it, right? How does a nation tell its story? It's not just in history books, that's for sure. It's carved into rock, it's woven into fabric, it's painted with just so much passion. And the Philippines, we're talking about an archipelago of thousands of islands. Its story is complex, it's layered, and it's absolutely fascinating. To really get a handle on this story, we're going to travel through three major periods. First, we'll look at the foundation, the ethnic traditions. Then, we'll see how colonial influences came in and just dramatically transformed everything. And finally, we'll check out the contemporary era, where artists are basically holding up a mirror to the world we live in right now. Okay, let's get into it.
So, we're starting at the very beginning with that first layer, ethnic traditions. Long before any colonizers showed up, art wasn't this separate thing you'd go look at. No, it was life. It was a part of every single ritual, every harvest, every community get-together. This early art was all about a few key things. For one, it was totally functional. We're talking tools, jars, things you'd actually use. It was also deeply spiritual, tied right into pagan beliefs and community rituals. And, crucially, it was a product of its environment, shaped by the land itself and made with nothing more than creative minds and human hands.
And this is a perfect example. This is the Manunggul jar, a national treasure, and it is so much more than just a beautiful piece of pottery. If you look really close at the lid, that little boat is carrying two figures. They represent two souls on their journey to the afterlife. This one object tells us so much about the incredibly sophisticated spiritual beliefs of early Filipinos.
So the Manunggul jar is what's called a secondary burial jar. And that might sound a little odd, but it was this really common practice where the bones of the deceased were later dug up and placed inside these beautiful, ornate containers. It just shows this deep respect for ancestors and a rock-solid belief in an afterlife.
Now moving from pottery to stone, the picture of this ancient world gets even clearer with the Angono petroglyphs. These are the earliest known rock drawings in the entire Philippines. They were actually discovered by national artist Carlos Botong Francisco, and this rock shelter has 127 human and animal figures carved into it. It's like a direct message, literally etched into the story of the past. All right, so now the story takes a huge dramatic turn. For centuries, new layers were added by colonial powers, and they fundamentally reshaped the whole purpose and form of art in the islands. This was a period of just massive transformation. This slide just lays it out so perfectly. You can see the shift right here. Art's purpose went from being about community ritual to being about religious propagation. The artists weren't just everyday community members anymore. They were skilled artisans commissioned by patrons, usually the church. And the themes, they went from nature and daily life to the life of Christ and the saints. It was a total 180. And after the Spanish, the Americans arrived, adding yet another layer to the story. They brought in a public school system, commercial advertising, and all of that came with a totally new set of artistic priorities. This era really sparked a conscious, deliberate search for what a modern Filipino identity and art could even look like. And to really get what that search for identity was all about, you need to know this word, bayanihan. It's this core Filipino value, and it represents a spirit of communal unity and cooperation. Basically, the idea that a whole community pitches in to help each other out. And here it is, this is that spirit, immortalized in the famous bayanihan painting by the very same Carlos Botong Francisco, who discovered the petroglyphs. The community is physically lifting and carrying a neighbor's house to a new spot. It's way more than just a picture. It's this powerful, visual statement about who we are. Which brings us all the way to today, the contemporary era, which really kicks off in the 1970s and goes on to the present, is where artists are grappling with all of these historical layers at once. They use their art like a mirror to reflect on, to question, and to comment on all the complexities of modern life. So what are they talking about? You name it, they're on it.
Contemporary artists are tackling huge social and political issues. They're exploring race, gender, and identity, they're dealing with globalization, and they're pushing the boundaries with abstract forms and these massive, site-specific installations that make you rethink what art can even be.
Just take a look at this incredible work by Leroy New. He created this massive installation right in the middle of the Palaway sand dunes for a festival, and it symbolizes the vibrant Filipino love for feasts and celebrations. So here, art is once again part of the environment, just like in ancient times, but in a totally new, mind-bending, modern way.
Okay, so we've been on this whole journey through time, but to really truly appreciate these works, from the Manungal jar all the way to modern installations, it helps to know the language that artists are speaking. So for our last section, let's get our hands on the decoder key to understand how these pieces are actually built.
First up are the elements of art. These are the absolute fundamentals, the basic building blocks. A really great way to think about them is as the nouns in the language of art. They're the actual things you can point to and see, like the specific lines carved into those petroglyphs.
So what are they? You've got line, like those simple, powerful carvings in Angano. There's shape and form, like the elegant three-dimensional curve of the Manungal jar. There's color, even if it's just the earthy tones of ancient pottery. Value, that's the lightness and darkness that gives the people in the Bayanihan painting a sense of weight. Texture, which you can almost feel on the surface of the jar. And finally, space, which is all about how the artist arranged everything.
But, just having a pile of building blocks isn't enough. You have to arrange them. And that's where the principles of art come in. So if the elements are the nouns, then the principles are the verbs. They describe what the artist does with the nouns to create an effect, like how Batong Francisco created that incredible sense of movement.
These principles are basically the artist's game plan. They use emphasis to draw your eye right to the two souls on the Manungal jar, or to the house in Bayanihan. They use movement to guide your eye along with the group carrying the house. There's a rhythm in the repeating figures of the petroglyphs and a sense of balance and proportion that just makes the whole scene feel right. It's the strategy behind the art.
So here's the simplest way to remember it. The elements are what artists use. The principles are how they use them. Once you've got that down, you can start to unlock the meaning in pretty much any piece of art from any time period. And that really brings our whole journey full circle, from the spiritual depth of that ancient jar to the communal spirit of Bayanihan, all the way to the bold installations of today. Each and every era adds another vital layer, creating a story as rich and vibrant as the nation itself.
And why so diverse? Well, a huge part of it is geography. The Philippines is an archipelago of over 7,000 islands. Think about that. That incredible diversity of landscape and culture is reflected directly in its equally diverse and amazing artistic heritage.
And so, we'll end with a question. We've seen the past, we've seen the present, but art is a story that's always being written. With all this incredible history as its foundation, what do you think the next chapter for Philippine art is going to look like?